I'm an honorary organizing team member. I managed to get this scarf. I'm going to wear from now on all the time. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, maybe we can start with introducing ourselves. So let's start from the other side.
Thank you very much, Peter. Hi, everyone. My name is Yugan Pillay. I head up business consulting for SNG Grant Thornton in South Africa. We specialize in assisting businesses to grow and reach beyond the potential that they have. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Enrico Kibido. I'm a business consultant and I represent the Africa Berlin Network, who builds platforms throughout Africa and Europe. So looking forward to the conversation.
Hi everybody, good afternoon after lunch. My name is Kagiso Koyabe. I'm a tech entrepreneurship advisor in the accelerator at the Botswana Digital and Innovation Hub, where basically we support startups and organizations to grow and scale in the innovation ecosystem. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Well, I was really thinking about how to start this conversation, and what you might not know about me, I'm coming from a small country called Hungary. And with thank you, whatever you said, I couldn't hear properly, but thanks for the reaction. And my country was actually behind the Iron Curtain during the first 8 years of my life. So traveling abroad was completely impossible. We could travel inside the block, but it was not so much fun. And you know, to me, eventually, when the world opened up and I could start traveling, first it was not easy. I needed visa even to visit Western European countries first. So at the end of the day, what I was trying to say is that my reflection about this topic is one thing, actually self-confidence. And because that's what I really still see many people in my country, in my region, struggling with. They are not brave enough to even imagine they could go actually on the global market. And when we had the dry run for this panel, I asked you kindly that maybe you could, think about some stories that you have, because we all agreed that self-confidence is kind of fundamentally important for this. So maybe if you have some stories that you can share, from your own experience, your own countries, your whatever, that rather positive than negative, how you see self-confidence playing an important role.
Sure.
Okay, thank you for that, Peter. Similar to you, I'm from also a very small country of Botswana, population of just over 2.3 million. And we're not really well known in the world for innovation in tech at the moment. We're better known for diamonds and our natural resources, animals, flora and fauna, etc. But we've had some very interesting startups come from our country. So as a recently graduated upper middle income country, there are certain aspects or certain pain points that we're perceived not to have like other African countries, which is not always the truth. I believe that most African countries have similar problems in different scales. So in Botswana, we have a lot of startups, or we have a lot of youth coming out of the universities, having done software development and having done other courses in the ICT space. But one that I thought was quite interesting was one by a young lady. She developed a simple app. It's nothing too groundbreaking to the rest of the world, but it was for us, a delivery app called My Foodness. It was called in Botswana. So she started this app in Botswana. She managed to develop it locally. Although she did have some international partners guiding her through the process, she developed this app locally. And in a country where the capital city has less than 300,000 people with a disposable or any income of any sort, you can already see that if you have a delivery app there, you already have a very small market. What was interesting about this is that she used that market opportunity to continue to improve and iterate her product to a point where it got onto the radar of other regions within Africa, which actually did need the app and actually had infrastructure issues, I think as one of the speakers mentioned earlier, that could create, for lack of a better word, a conducive environment for that type of application based on the infrastructural challenges that normal delivery services have. And within a short space of time, and after participating in multiple international competitions, such as this one that we're here for now, the awareness and brand awareness about her product really grew. And she got an investment, she found a partner, and was able to scale her app from Botswana to East Africa, into Tanzania, and also to some extent into the Netherlands. But what I found that was interesting about, which also leads into our topic, is that in scaling to Tanzania, she had an issue where she needed to rename the app, right? So you will find that sometimes startups are a bit stuck up on the names of their app or the way that they're structured. But as you go out into new markets, you find that certain phrases are easier to say, certain ways of talking are easier and more acceptable in that environment. And right now, she's one of the largest applications for deliveries in the region. And actually, she's also launched in Johannesburg as well. So for me, that was one of those stories where an application that doesn't seem to be that sophisticated finds a perfect ground in an environment where it's better suited. I don't know if I answered your
Yeah.
question.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just understanding the confidence issue is how do we engage, and where do we go to engage? And COVID has been a conduit for a lot of conversations where people connect, and we've lost the human aspect of it over the last 2 years, and just trying to connect with each other in the same country is sometimes an issue, but also internationally, and that is what I found actually quite easier to connect with people from other parts of the world, because people are more conducive to engaging and listening to what you're wanting to do, and especially in our country and Africa as a continent. People don't quite understand the skill level and the level of engagement and education that there is, and innovation, and how we can then work with that within the environments to understand that there are opportunities for organizations to be able to invest in African startups. And hence the reason one of the organizations that I represent has seen the benefit of that through creating the platform where businesses from Africa go to Germany to experience what happens there and the environment there, and similarly come to Africa to experience it. And people are blown away by just the difference in the environment here. And using Cape Town as an example, the opportunities that exist within the province and the country is immense. And therefore the route to Europe or the world is through Africa, and the more we need to realize that, the growth will be exponential in terms of that. And I think that would be my contribution at this point.
Yeah, when we talk about confidence, what a topic, eh? Because where does it start from? And a story that comes to my mind is there was a school teacher named Dan. He was a retired science teacher, and he'd opened up a small business, and what he was doing was importing chemicals and selling it to a local beer manufacturer, and they used to use the chemicals to clean the beer bottles. And what had happened was that one of the beer manufacturer had asked us to evaluate his business, and when I started speaking to Dan, his confidence levels were really low. I mean, I'm not sure if you know about science teachers. They're very, very technical in their own minds and so on. And I asked him, why are you importing it? Can't you just use Sunlight liquid, which is a dishwashing liquid in South Africa? And he got so upset with me. He's like, no, because it has this chemical and that chemical, and you could see him really bright up. And I asked him, have you ever considered doing it yourself? And sometimes I think the confidence comes from having a business coach that could talk you through it, get you out of your own mind thinking. But just to cut the very long story short, he had actually then developed his own chemical that was even better than what he was importing. Then we had managed to get him funding, and he became South Africa's first black-owned chemical company that became an industrialist. And that was from somebody who really didn't have the confidence and self-belief to now becoming one of the largest chemical producers in South Africa, and he started then doing chemicals to mining companies, cleaning water and for rural communities. And if you look at them today, the confidence beaming out of him, finding that self-worth is just phenomenal. And yeah, it's been such a great journey, just watching what he's accomplished. So yeah, self-confidence, I think, is
Yeah.
a major thing.
And also confidence somehow requires some kind of knowledge, right? One of the expressions I hate is abroad. You know, everything is easier abroad. But please define what abroad is. I mean, there are so many more countries out there than yours, and you can't just unify them like that. And it obviously shows a lack of knowledge about places. In my country, when you mention abroad, is Germany, full stop, right? That's the wonderland where everyone is rich. But somehow I think there are some certain kind of basic things you need in order to gain that self-confidence, and also to start eventually selling or exporting or whatever. How do you see that? How would you find those most important characteristics?
Okay. Well, I think at the onset of it is to have a solid product. Really, I think regardless of where you're building it from, if you have a good product that is solving a real human need or issue, you will probably find somewhere else where it's needed. So over and above, I think a lot of the speakers earlier today talked about regulatory issues, phytosanitary compliance issues, but I think that when you start with a solid product that can stand up against any firewalls or any hacking, etc., you give yourself much more opportunities or open up much more markets that you can have opportunities in, right? And I think further to your point is that, when you're a startup in, let's say, even in Botswana, looking for markets outside of your country, not abroad, there's very little information that you might have right away. And sometimes you don't even have the means to get that information. Maybe you don't have the money to subscribe to an online analysis site, etc. But there's some easy, affordable, low-hanging fruits when it comes to information. And that information comes from professional associations, sector associations, business networks, and that is usually a great starting point for real empirical on-the-ground information for places that you don't know much about. And that can give you the opportunity to take that robust product of yours and test it in those markets where there's lower barriers and see what that response is. And that would compound your confidence to take it even further than that. Yeah, okay. I think that's my
Yeah, and I always refer to when somebody's got an idea, they say, listen, I've got a brilliant idea, I want to just do it, and they run off, but they forget about what they actually need to do, because it's still a business. The foundations need to be there, the regulatory environment needs to be there. There's so much information. There are free or very cost-effective mechanisms to set up a business and ensure that everything is in order in terms of taxes and that. Because if you want to scale, you need to have those things in order, because your investors or your partners are going to be asking the questions, is everything in order? Who are the people? Have you done a SWOT analysis? Have you understood your environment? Is there really a product that goes to market? Who are your competitors? So there are questions that you need to answer. So you need to do your groundwork first of all. So you can't just run into a market and then think that it's going to work without actually testing it, without understanding where your pain points are. So those are the important aspects to have a look at if you need to scale and if you want to go abroad, because people think that anything coming from the rest of the world is better than what can be produced here. And as we heard, in terms of the crypto and that environment it's top in the world. And we need to harness those and tell our stories. And in Africa, a lot of storytelling happens, and a lot of information is shared via stories, and information is shared down the generations via stories. We need to have a compelling story to tell, and we need to ensure that startups or businesses have that story to tell and articulate it properly for the specific markets that they want to enter. And therefore, there's within the Western Cape and the country, there are organizations that assist businesses and startups to tell a compelling story.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so I think as well, don't underestimate feedback that you get from your client. If I take you back to Dan, the reason why he knew he had a good product was because his client told him so. This was better than what I'm used to. And leveraging of that, the client was able to use his product in other countries. So sometimes that leverages you forward. And I think what we sometimes forget as a startup is we're very critical to someone's supply chain. And if you look at the world today, and also what COVID has taught us, is if you want to secure your future, secure your supply chain first, knowing where you're going to get what from and from whom. And therefore, I think the communication between yourself and your client is absolutely vital to have an open conversation whereby you understand each other and you can understand where your client is going to. Because very often you don't know what's your client's strategy. You're just sometimes answering a tender. But if you take the time to understand what's the strategy, you probably could build something like for Dan, for instance. He started supplying mines from washing beer bottles and created something brand new.
You want to add something?
Just in addition to what Eugen was saying, one of my clients, and they started off in Durban Harbour doing maintenance. So what he was based in the harbour, and he started building relationships with the people in charge there, and they said, we've got a problem. The trucks keep on knocking our booms. And he just stood there and he said, it's because they can't see the boom. What he did was, he said, I'll solve your problem. So what he did was, he said he sat in the rain, and these people looking at him thinking, are you crazy? Because what he did was, he built a prototype in the rain, and he put two booms on top of each other with the boom at the top, and the drivers could see the boom. Something as simple as that.
Totally.
And then the guy said, that's quite nice. Can we get 20 of those in the next week? And like, how am I going to manufacture it? But true to form, with the resilience that they have, he manufactured that. And they said, what else can you do? And they said, listen, we've got these components. There's a whole container at the back. See if you can use it. We got a Belgian company that does it. And we can't do anything to it. So what he did was he took it and he played with the thing and it worked. And he installed it, and obviously the Belgian company heard about this and they were livid because how could he touch their components and that? And they actually flew him to Belgium, and he said he had a conversation to meet the CEO, and the man spent 2 minutes with him and left him with somebody else. And he said in that interaction he felt like, I want to go home because what am I doing here? And today he is their implementation partner in the harbour, because he could then work with them to say, listen, I'm not a threat to your business. I'm here to assist you. And obviously it worked on a number of efficiencies because they didn't need to send the parts to Belgium because he could fix it here. And that entrenched the company as well as him in the harbour. So confidence in terms of taking that leap of faith and saying, listen, we can do it. And we're quite a resilient nation. We've overcome a number of barriers and hurdles, but we've got more in common than we think, and we harness all that we have to get to the solution, and we'll find a solution.
How do you see the perception of African products and services? Maybe you have some, let's keep it still motivating,
Well, the reason why earlier I was talking about having a solid product is that, even when you go to these international fairs, and the Dubai 2020 just ended earlier this year, unfortunately, because of different levels of development of the different SMEs from various African countries, there's large variations even in just how products are presented. So even from the branding, the packaging and the quality of packaging, the homogeneity between all of the products, are they all the same? And I think on most times they're not. The products or consumption of those products is viewed as more of a goodwill action. I'm doing it because you're from Africa. I'm doing it, to help you out. This is me part of our CSR or part of our CSI, and not giving those products the space that they deserve based on the qualities that they have. So I think it's something that African countries, business association hubs, and competitions, or let me say incubators, have been working on to try to improve the quality of products coming out of Africa. But for a very long time, the quality of our products has always been looked down upon. Now, as we continue to become more aware and through various trade agreements and regional and intra-regional trade agreements, the standard of quality of our products, the compliance to regulatory issues and phytosanitary issues is becoming better and better. And I think that because of where we're coming from as Africa, some of the considerations that we were talking about earlier about ESG and environmentally safe, environmentally responsible ways of harvesting and producing, I think that as Africa, we are still using organic products. We're still quite aware it's part of a culture that we're coming from, that we live off of our environment, and our environment, we have to support it responsibly so that we can live off of it for as long as we want to or can manage to. So I think the perception, although it is changing extremely slowly, is slowly starting to recognize those special products coming out of Africa that are of the right quality, have strong brand presence, have put themselves out there wherever there's an opportunity to be compared against their international counterparts, and have actually come out on top. We've had instances where local manufacturers, both in South Africa and in Botswana, have been able to access global value chains of giants such as your KFC, selling them relishes and stuff, simple things like that. That shows the small steps that we're taking for recognition. It shows that our processes are improving and our products are definitely improving. However, the perception is moving very slowly. Fortunately, with tech, we have better ways to articulate our stories, tell the stories of the communities supporting these products, or where people are employed who are supporting these products. But I think
Loud Tyler can definitely help with that.
exactly. So even in terms of using technology to help us tell a better story, I mean, I know in Namibia they've started putting geolocating QR codes on some of the meat that makes it into the EU, which shows the consumer exactly where that cow is coming from. And they can make their assessment on how it has been fed, whether it has been fed organically, and how it has been reared. And that gives that confidence for the consumer on that end that, by supporting this product based on its quality and based on the quality of its story, I'm supporting the responsible growth of this ecosystem.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and there's obviously a reason why, people see Africa as a growth continent, because with the average age of the population as well, but also in terms of where they can make an impact and how they can support African founders, African startups, and just the ecosystem in general. And therefore these incubators are here, and they are also trying with local authorities and local agencies to incubate African startups so that they can tell their story and tell a compelling story to say, we've got similar or better products or services or solutions to service the market that you are in, because we are not having solutions just for the African market. We have looked broader, we've lifted our gaze, lifted our reach, and we are ready to scale. And those are the opportunities that are created, because if you just look at the amount of funding that has been invested in Africa, if you look at Kenya, look at South Africa, Nigeria, and Egypt, it's amazing work that's being done, and it's all around, a lot of it is about the circular economy and how people make a difference within their environments, because it's all about sustainability. And as was mentioned, is how do you make sure that you create a future for your business or your environment, your community, and how that can be replicated throughout the world. So those are important aspects to look at, and Africa is ready, Africa is available, Africa is open, and Africa is ready to make a difference.
I believe it also starts with us being proud of our own products. In South Africa, we have a brand called Proudly South African. whereby if there's brands that's made in South Africa, they get to wear that badge. So we've also been part of the ABLAs, which is the African Leaders Awards, the Forbes 30 under 30. And what the lessons I've learned working with those entrepreneurs is that they also not afraid to reach out to the overseas markets, because the world has opened up now. We can now leverage our skills in other countries and use it to our advantage to help our products become better or up to stand, as they say. But there's also, and sometimes I think as a startup, you also sort of get caught up that you need to be everything to everyone, have all the answers. Also, pairing up with your competitor puts you at such a fantastic advantage that there's new and better ways of doing things, and like I said, the world is open for us to learn and build and grow.
Okay, I think we have time just one more question or topic, and then maybe someone will have other questions. But if you want to give, or you can give one piece of advice to a young entrepreneur that is planning to conquer the whole world, how to get out of Africa, what would that one piece of advice be?
I'd say be deliberate. Be very deliberate about finding out what you don't know about where you want to go, and find the people in those environments who, we've been preaching collaboration the whole day today, which is a beautiful theme for this, is that be deliberate about that. Find your people or find your tribe in that other space and learn as much as you can. Be willing to partner, be willing to share. We always say at the Harvard, 100% of zero is zero. So you are the only person standing in your own way in that scenario. So be open to collaborate, be open to partner, and be very deliberate about it. Put yourself out there, find what's going on, and test your product in every single forum or show or competition that you have an opportunity to.
If I may say one thing to this, sorry, it's a story. Yeah. Very first time in San Francisco in my life, taking an Uber ride. And the driver, it was actually like a collective ride, so more people joined the car. And the driver, just out of sudden, gives an iPad, to us. And if you could complete that kind of thing, if you can give it a try. It turned out that the guy was only driving Uber because he was looking for user feedback. And I loved it so much. So you can find a way, and he even earned money while doing that. So, sorry, I just had to mention it.
It's a good story. And just to mention that, in terms of understanding what your capabilities are, and understanding, because a lot of the investors will look at, who's the team, who's the jockey behind it, what are their skills. Understand what your skills are and what your limitations are, and work on those, and understand what your product, the solution is, and what need it satisfies. Because you need to articulate what it is about, and have an elevator pitch that's, you don't have to have a huge pitch deck that says nothing. And people get bombarded with pitch decks. Understand, keep it short, concise, to the point, understand what value you add. And finally is, don't diminish yourself. Know your worth, understand what you bring to the table, and stand your ground.
Yeah, I echo that. Well done. For me, to have an open mindset, never stop learning. There's always something new to learn. If you don't understand blockchain, Bitcoin, there's enough content to read and educate yourself. So yeah, I've noticed that amongst successful startups, that they never stop learning.
Actually, we should celebrate the access to information. Like a few hundred years ago, they were protected in castles, right? And you couldn't even get close to that book.
For sure.
Is there anything else you would like to add that you expected me to ask but I didn't do, and you really feel that should be shared with the audience? Anything?
Well, I think most of this has been said, but one thing that I've picked up with some of the startups that we work with, although it's in the biospace and not necessarily in innovation, is that there's a lot of similar products in that space, in the cosmetic space, etc. There's a lot of people using natural, inputs and products from Africa to sell their product. And almost every country, almost all of us know somebody doing cosmetics somewhere. And it's about, just on to his point earlier about, knowing your worth, is that just because other people are doing it doesn't mean you can't do it and do it differently. So put yourself out there, like I keep saying, just do it, man. Just do it.
Yeah. No, that's the similar sentiment that I share in terms of that is, just do what you need to do because you've put your heart and soul into it, and you've got to make it work.
Just in closing, please have a look at what your government offers as incentives, because there's so many grants going around in South Africa. 82% of the grants are never used because people don't know how to access it. They don't know, they don't have normal financial statements. And once you have grant money, you don't have to pay that back, but you can use it in your business and can really propel you forward. And there's many of these incentives out there, so it would be great to learn more about them and utilize them.
Yeah. My approach to this actually is that life is just too short to be afraid of doing things.
For sure.
Right? And would you regret more not trying to do, when you get old and things like that? And I also remind myself how unimportant I am. So if you look at the sky, you look at the stars, and you realize that, who I am, I'm so, in just 2 generations, no one would ever remember I ever existed. So I don't even have anything to lose, right? Yeah. So when I face challenges, like self-confidence challenges, I just think about that and I don't care.
Sure.
So maybe some questions from the audience. We still have 31 seconds. Please do.
I just wanted to say thank you very much. I think it's fantastic what you're saying. I think one of the things that we've come across is the need for understanding your marketplace. Thank you so much. It doesn't work.
Now
it
it does.
now. And this is where I have to put my glasses on. I just wanted to read something from a book that was written 500 BC. It's very short. It's called The Art of War, and it says, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, every victory gained will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor the war, nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And I think that basically says, do your research, speak to your network, and you should succeed. If you don't, you will fail.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our time is up. So, we can go on, one by one. Anyone should just come to us and talk to us if you feel like.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Push it that way.
Thank you very much. It was amazing to listen to you. The story of Grant Thornton blows my mind in terms of where it started and where it is today. Peter, as always, thank you for making friends in places all around the world.
Thank you.
For all
Thanks,
of you
man.
to know,
Thank you.
the Global Startup Awards operates in 124 countries. So whilst we are extremely proud of the 55 countries we've brought to the table, there is a much bigger global network that we have access to. And, Peter and his team have been doing it for a long time. How many years now, Peter?
10.
10 years, right? Yeah.
And we are still not rich.
Thanks, guys.